So, I really love to see the whole contract for ACC. Oh, actually, no. Wait. There's another one. Aris, what do you think about GT3 cars in the end? Do you think that this BOP is an amazing thing? A bit counterproductive too? Some races like to watch Formula 1. Um, oh god, this is such a tricky question because if we start talking about that, we need an hour of discussing and analyzing and um, I like the GT3 cars because I like their design. Um, I think they have become too grippy, which also very sensitive aerodynamically, which makes the cars driving more or less the same way. The less aerodynamic grip you have, the more creative you can be with your lines and with the balance of the car. You can slide a little bit. You can see this in vintage cars. And the more creative you can be, the more the viewer can understand the different driving styles of a car. It's like MotoGP. I don't know if you guys watch MotoGP or Superbike. Bikes have no aerodynamics. I mean, you could take away all the colors and sponsors from the bikes and you could still understand which driver drives which bike because every one of them has a different style and does different things with the bike because all they have to depend on is the mechanical grip. This is no more the case in modern high aerodynamic racing. You can already see this happening in GT3, even more in GT2, GTE, way more in LMP racing, and obviously Formula 1, everybody is behind the other in a small train, in a little train, and do exactly the same things because otherwise the car do not work. So you have to do that. So yes, I think they are going a little bit too far in aerodynamics, but I find them surprisingly nice to drive and go close to the limit. I wasn't expecting them to be that fun once you find out how to drive them close to the limit. Because that's the key. If you overdrive them or if you're trying to do things that the car don't want to do, then the driving is bad. It's awful. It's understeers or oversteers instantly. It's sliding, not sliding. You don't understand. Everything is flat and everything is like, what is that? The game is not good. But it's not like that. You really need to understand. Try to go close to the limit. It asks from you to become a better driver, to understand how to do it. And if you stay there, then a whole new world starts to unfold in front of you. So yeah, interesting. Okay, other thing. Niels asks, it's sold by the way, spent $400,000 on a GT3 car. Phone the manufacturer asks for aero map and all you hear is beep 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 and they hang up. Yeah, it is. It is as it is. Well, you can get out some data from the telemetry, even with ours. If you are good enough and do some mathematical channels on Motec, you can start to understand something and have an idea at least. But yeah, not all cars gives you precise aero maps. So it's client racing. That's what it is. Other things. Would you not raise real bump stop? Yeah, probably. Do you ever use the CC rating to determine if a setup works better or needs improving? No, not really. Not really. I'm not that. I don't. This is for me, but this is personal. This is completely personal, right? For me, this is like cheating. You don't have a CC rating in real life. Why we put it in? Because you guys need, not you, many users need some help to understand, okay, I'm overdriving, I'm doing stuff wrong, so I have to, learn to do it better. And I know many people that learn to drive with CC rating, which is fine. It's great. But once you arrive at the point that you understand what you're doing, forget that. Drive properly, learn to do the setups. This is the nice thing about the simulators. It's not just driving, having some fun. It's you learn about the cars, you learn about the circuits, you learn the theories. You go to watch a real race and you know more than the average guy that sits next to you, or even the commentator that just, tells things that has learned who knows how, but doesn't really understand them. All you sim racers are far, far better understanding real racing than any other guy that doesn't do sim racing. I think this is very important, and it's not really well known or not really well understood in our community. We should be proud about that. We know much more stuff about racing. Has the aero increased much since, say, 2010, which is typical lift-drag ratio? Typical lift is about 3. Typical lift is about 3. I don't remember if it's this is more than 2010. Usually, I think you know that, Niels. What happens is the absolute numbers rise always from old years to modern years. The absolute numbers, so the absolute lift rise to 3, 3.2, 3.3, and then the cars become too fast, and so what happens? The regulation, the rules comes in, and they say, okay, we limit that now, so that you go back to 2.8, 2.7, let's say. And so they start again working in the limitations, and the key here is not only they manage to go up again, which is great, but they also manage to widen the range of operation, So there is a great book. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second, and I will show you something that is pretty nice. Just a second. I'll take a book. Let's see if I can find this. So this is a very nice book. I think it's here. Oh yeah, that's nice here. That's very cool. Okay, back again. So that's a very nice book. I think the guys that they are interested about physics. Okay, back again. So this is a very nice book. It's Formula One Technology by Peter Wright. Very, very nice book. And it has lots of things about aerodynamics to understand. It's an easy read. It has some equations, but not much. And it's cool on some stuff because it makes you understand. So here's a very nice graph. Can you see it, guys? Let me make the webcam window a bit bigger. I think I can do that. So let me go here and right, and bigger, yeah, like that. All right. Okay. So here it is. Oops. Here it is. So this is the graph I want to show you. Okay. This is the graph. So what that graph shows, the absolute, sorry, I have to do it, in the opposite. So the absolute numbers of downforce are almost the same from the Mercedes, no, from the Lotus 72. No, actually this is the G-force. This is the G-force. No, sorry, wrong diagram. Let me find the other one. Where was it? Not sure if I can find it here. Let's see. If not, I will show you in there because still you can understand it. No, I can't find it. Anyway, let's do it here. You can still understand. So, okay, back. Frustrating. All right, so let's get this out from here and let's show it like that. All right, here we are. So these are the g-forces, all right? Which means, more g-forces means more downforce, all right? And here's the trick situation. So you see the g-forces between some older cars, not very old, but some older cars and some modern cars. It's not that big of a difference. But as you go down on slower speeds, you see how the older car, the inside one, becomes thinner and thinner, creates less, less downforce. While the modern car goes down more vertically. As you go down, there is even more difference than in the absolute value. So down here, in the mid-turns, you have more difference. What does that mean? It means that the car is easier and faster to drive for the driver, even at low to medium speeds. So the absolute values are not that different, but how you arrive on those values is different. So the older car is somewhere here and goes up like this. So when you are at very high speed, you have tons of grip, but when you are at very low speed, you have much less grip, so you have issues. The modern car is more or less the same because of regulations. The regulations limit the absolute numbers, so you cannot have too high numbers at the absolute numbers of grip. But as you go down, one goes like this and the other stays similar. So at mid-speed turns, you have more grip, you can take advantage of that grip, you can be faster and in an easier way. So modern cars lets you stay on the limit, both higher limit and more easily and more often. So you have to stay on the limit for more time. This is even more important, this kind of graphs, if you look at the operation windows. So the operation windows that we talked before on older cars are very, very narrow, very, very narrow. I mean, old GT1 cars had lots of pitch sensitivity. Do you remember the Mercedes GT1 car, SLR, I don't remember, the one that Mark Webber took flight at the Le Mans? He went up and took flight and spun around. It was pretty amazing. So those cars were extremely pitch sensitive, so the setups had to be extremely stiff, so that the car would remain, at the same rake and won't move back and forth their aero balance. So they were very hard to drive at low speeds. And also very skittish ones. You would, I don't know, jump over a curb, slide a tiny bit. They were very, very skittish. So the regulations limited those cars. We now have the GTE cars that are practically faster, okay, but they're also much easier to drive because their maximum values might be even less of downforce at some speed than those cars, but globally they have wider operation windows, they are easier to drive, they are faster in low speeds, all that stuff. So this is how regulations limit modern cars, but engineering makes the cars faster anyway. All right, so anything else? Okay, thank you guys for the... Because I remember to subscribe and all the stuff, typical YouTube stuff. Yeah, that. Aris, would you say that aero is more important in ACC than mechanical grip? Yes, absolutely. If you don't have the car into your operation window, aero operation window, then it won't work. There was a question in one of my first streams. One guy said, oh, but at low speeds, under 100 kilometers per hour, 120 kilometers per hour, downforce is not enough. It's not important. It is very important. It's true that the value of the downforce is low. You have something like 40, 60 kilos around the car, moving around from the back, 80 kilos, which one would say, the car is 140, 1,040 kilos, so 80 kilos moving is not a big deal. Yes, but there is a difference. And as we said, there's a tiny difference, and the tiny differences make a big difference in the end. With those cars, obviously, you are racing, and you are racing at the limit, which means that if you have done everything else properly, when you are on the turn, you are at the exact limit of both front and rear tires. So you are at the exact limit. You have maybe a tiny bit of understeer or a tiny bit of oversteer, but you are there. So when you are at the limit of sliding away, if you put additional 60 kilos at the front or at the rear that they're moving, then yes, you have a problem. It's not a big problem, but you have a problem that the car starts to slide at the front or at the rear, depending where the downforce shifted. Why? Because you are exactly at the limit, so both tires are at the exact limit. You go over that limit, because you took off the load or you gave more limited, with more load, the downforce load on the tires, and so you shift the whole balance. That's the thing that we talked before. You need balance from your car. So when you are at the limit, you play with the pedal and you see how the balance is. If the car gets too much unbalanced, you have to do something either with the mechanical grip or even more importantly with the aerodynamic grip, okay? Because you don't need to have too much of aerodynamic shift, aerodynamic balance shift front and rear, because this is what, when you are at the limit, will cause the car go way too much in or way too much out, depending on what is happening. So you need a balance of the car that when you are just at the limit and you play with the pedal, you get obviously what you need. So you release the pedal, the nose goes a bit in, you give acceleration, the car stabilizes, maybe you get a tiny bit more understeer, but if you keep pushing, then it slowly goes into power oversteer. All of that needs to be subtle up to the point that doesn't give you doesn't make you worry, doesn't annoy you, and you have the time to control it. That's why each setup is different. A guy that is faster than me, more precise, can handle a car that is faster on, changing this kind of balance, because, he can deal with it and he can be more precise to deal with it without problems. Guy like me that needs a little bit more time to understand what the car is doing, then it means that I need the car to be a little bit more, to have more subtle movements when I play with the pedals right on the limit. A guy that is slower than me, for whatever reason, it needs the car to be even more subtle in its limits. So this is what's happening. Okay. So yes, the aero is extremely important. Yes, we simulate resistance to yaw, both for the whole body and for the rear vertical fins. So each fin has its aero, its fin area, and obviously we simulate both resistance and on some occasions downforce lift or downforce. Blah, 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 blah. A car like the Aston Martin V8, a bit more agile. Raise the rear. Raise the rear end. Lower a tiny bit the front bump stop rate, but a tiny bit, one click at a time. Okay, here's a couple of things that you can do. All right. All right, so Race Car Engineer magazine, very, very good magazine, very nice. Very, very good. Yes, in fact, the LMP cars and some Formula One cars that they have those big, vertical fins, they act like, sail fins in the end. And if you are going in a certain yaw, not much, 4 degrees, 5 degrees, they are actually not only stabilizing the car, but they generate downforce. They generate downforce. This is something that I found out when I was doing the LMP cars at Assetto Corsa 1, and we were simulating that, although we had other simplifications, but we were simulating that, and it still simulates here. So yes, a big vertical fin can generate downforce. This is also something that they are doing with the diffusers. You see that modern diffusers have many vertical fins that divide the diffuser in areas. They do that to make the diffuser less sensitive in yaw. So when the car rotates and drifts a little bit, instead of losing downforce, it maintains it. Some cars maybe even gain a tiny bit, but at least it maintains it, except if you're going, completely sideways from an angle and over that, then you start losing tons of downforce. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. A few degrees ago, they create south force. They create south force, yes, with a few degrees yaw, but they also create downforce. Not only side force, because of the aero resistance of something that goes like that on the wind, but they also create downforce. Your problem with the GTR is the oversteer on low medium turns. The GTR has some turbo lag. So you go on the accelerator, nothing happens, you're happy, and at some point the turbo kicks in and whoop, so you have to accommodate on that one. Even worse than the GTR is the Honda. The Honda NSX has practically the smallest engine of all the cars. It is like 3.2, something like that, liters. So it needs to have big turbos to generate power, because the road car generates less power from the engine, but it also has the electric motors to have maximum power. The racing car doesn't have the electric motors because the regulation doesn't permit it, and so they have to have big turbos to give more boost and generate the power that they need. Means that they have more turbo lag. So you go on the pedal, that's good, and boom, woohoo, and you have to control the power drift. How about Niels and Aris do a Aerodynamics Nerd podcast? Niels is much better than me in terms of engineering. Niels, in terms of engineering, is much more informed in terms of actual mathematical equations and stuff. He's better than me. I believe I am a little bit better than him in general experience and knowledge because of the very different cars we did. Modesty apart, sorry Niels, but yeah, in terms of mathematical equations, he's a monster. I'm not even, give Caesar what is Caesar. I haven't played ACC Online for fun, but I'm much lately because we do lots of testing, internal. So, but I will probably, as I said at the start of the stream, I will do that stuff. I will do a 6 hours race 1st of February with driver swaps with Kevin and Gergo together. All right, I think we've done for tonight. Sorry for the delay at the start of the stream. I had a lot of actually I wasn't able to make XSplit work with YouTube. It wouldn't connect. Maybe some issues with the drivers, with the servers. I don't know, but simply it wouldn't connect. So sorry about that. We started an hour late with lots of issues, but we've made it, and now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, yeah, and I'm dead. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me, for all your questions, for your patience to go through these long streams. As usual, in the following days, I will cut what is possible to cut and post small edits of the things that we've talked about. And yeah, see you next Friday for another stream. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.